Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. It's a real pleasure to be here together this morning, celebrating this day of Shabbat and lifting up a young person as she takes her first steps as an adult in our community. We are very mindful of how we celebrate life cycle moments. It's not the same simply to say that a moment has come and gone. We have to mark it in some way. And so we gather together. And in one space and filled with love, we show someone what it has meant to include and welcome them into our lives and our community. And we send them into a shared future with that very same love. And so it is with that I welcome everyone who is here in our sanctuary to celebrate Shabbat. And I want to welcome everyone who's joining us online as well on Facebook and on YouTube. If you're joining on Facebook or YouTube, I invite you to just share a quick note in the chat, a Shabbat Shalom, a Boker Tov, which means good morning in English, or in Hebrew. The English is good morning. And I also want to mention that if you are joining us online, you'll find a slightly higher quality live stream at tilb.org, which I mentioned not only for that slightly higher quality, but if you are thinking of someone this Shabbat, you can share their name in the chat at TILB. When we get to that prayer at the end of our service, we'll be able to offer that name out loud. I want to say welcome to everyone who is here in our sanctuary as well, and specifically a welcome to Sharon Amster-Brown, a welcome to Eric Schatzkin, our executive director, and welcome as well to our Torah Center teachers, and welcome as well to our president, Mark Dressner. It's wonderful to be together as we celebrate this day. I believe that Jay Al-Hadaf is here as well. I hear his voice. Jay, Shabbat Shalom. Welcome. And welcome as well to David York, who was here and just a few days ago as a part of this beautiful team lifting up another beautiful moment in our community. And it is so good to have you here as a part of this leadership team. Just a few notes, a little bit of housekeeping before we begin. The first is cell phones. Now, I know that cell phones are essentially ubiquitous for all of us today, but I want to invite us to have a moment this morning without that particular distraction. And so if you brought your cell phone, I invite us to set it on silent or even to turn it entirely off this morning so that we can have this morning without that distraction. I want to note also about masks that we are asking that everyone be masked this morning as we are together in the kahal, in the group. Those who are going to be up here and have their masks off have been cleared for one reason or another, have taken a test, so on and so forth. And so while we are joined together for, of course, I would imagine fairly clear reasons, we're going to ask everyone to please remain masked. And that is, of course, masked over our mouths as well as our noses. There is also no need to take photographs. We have a professional photographer here joining us to capture this moment, and we'll capture it in such a way to preserve the sanctity of our service. Finally, we together are going to experience a sacred moment. It's not a performance. And so because of that, I'm going to ask us, when we are overcome with appreciation or warmth for a particular moment, to not applaud. But rather, there are words that we can share. We can say Mazel Tov, or the words are Yashar Koach, meaning essentially, what a beautiful job. And so I invite us to offer those words this morning when we are moved to do so instead of applauding. Now, this morning we also have a prayer book that has each of our hearts in mind as we come into this morning. You'll find the words for our prayers on the right-hand side of the page, and it should be in the seat back in front of you. I feel like I'm in an airplane. In the seat back in front of you. On the right-hand side of the page, you'll find the traditional words as well as the transliteration to join along in the words themselves if that's helpful. But like I said, the prayer book was designed with our hearts in mind. knowing that our hearts might wander on this morning, and we all have different ways and needs, spiritual needs this morning. And so as our hearts wander, I invite us to let our eyes wander around the page as well. You'll find the translation of those same words underneath, as well as interpretive readings on the left-hand side and commentary below. For some of us, it's going to be very meaningful to follow along in the words, follow along in the ancient Hebrew that we'll be sharing this morning. And for others, it's going to be meaningful to hum along to the melody or simply let these melodies wash over us. For each of us, I invite us to let this morning be what we need for it to be. We begin with words of blessing to each other. Ma tovu, what a beautiful community we share. I invite us to join together on page 74.
Ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, ma tovu, mishkenotecha Yisrael, mishkenotecha Yisrael, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, ma tovu, va'ani berov hastecha, avo v'techa, eshtecha ve'el hehol kodshecha, ve'yiratecha, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, ma tovu, ma tovu, ohalecha Yaakov, ohalecha Yaakov, ma tovu.
Well, as Ilana begins to lead us in our service this morning, I'd like to call her up as well as her parents, Karen and Ellie, to present her talit to her this morning.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kichanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehitatef b'tzitzit. I hereby accept the obligation of fulfilling these mitzvot, as commanded in our Torah. You shall be holy, for I, your God, am holy. You shall not render an unjust decision. Leave something of what you possess to the poor. Do not hate your fellow human being. Judge your neighbor fairly. Do not stand idly by the blood of your neighbor. Do not gossip or spread rumors. Do justly, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God. Love your neighbor as yourself. I am Adonai, your God. We will continue with the Baruch Hu, our call to prayer. I will lead the congregation by singing the first line and bowing. The congregation will then sing the second line and bow with me. Page 108. Please rise in body or in spirit. will continue with the Yotzer Or, our affirmation to this world that continuously, in the act of creation, we give thanks that the light is restored to the earth daily. Please turn to page 110. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Yotzer Or uvarei choshe, osei shalom uvarei et hakol, hameir la'aretz v'la'darim alecha v'rachamim, uvtivo mechadesh umol yom tamid, Moshe v'reshit, ma rabu ma'asecha Adonai, kulam al ma'asita, ma'al ha'aretz kinyanecha, titbarach Adonai Eloheinu, al shabach ma'aseh v'yecha, u'al mereshita, u'al selah, or hadash al tion ta'ir, v'niteh kulam v'hara le'olu, baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer HaMe'orot. You are praised who rolls out the rough raw clay of the universe into delicate vessels of light, and from nothing at all we could perceive in a world that has turned old a shimmering new creation right before our eyes, just made this moment, just for us. How much of life reveals your presence? How much Torah unfolds from each new flower, from each new wave that breaks upon the sea? You are praised who forms from the clay that cloaks our lives, the delicate vessels which contain our light. Adonai's love for us and our desire to study Torah and fulfill Mitzvah what does that say? Is the theme for Ahava Rabbah. We continue on page 112. Ahava Rabbah Ahavtanu, Adonai Eloheinu, Chemla Gedolo V'Tera Hamalta Aleinu, Ba'avur Avotenu V'Itnotenu, Shabbat Hu Becha B'Hamdem Hukei Hayim, Kain Techonenu U'Tlamdenu. The Shema, one of our oldest prayers, is our... sorry.
V'ha'erinenu b'toratecha, v'dabek l'beinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levavenu le'ahava u'yira et shemecha, lo nevosh v'lo nikalim, lo nikashel le'olam va'ed, v'ha'erinenu b'toratecha, v'dabek l'beinu b'mitzvotecha, v'yached levavenu le'ahava u'yira et shemecha.
The Shema, one of our oldest prayers, is our declaration of faith. In this declaration, we are pronouncing that all humanity is one, bound by our joys and our sufferings. We will continue with the Shema on page 114. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Adonai Elohecha bechol lavavcha uvechol nafshecha uvechol meotecha v'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom alevavecha v'shinata levanecha v'dibarta bam v'shitecha v'reitecha v'utetecha v'derech u'shokbecha uvkumecha u'kshartam leot al-yadecha v'hayu latotafot v'heinenecha uvtavtam al mezuzot beitecha u'visharecha Lema tizkeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai v'yitem kiddushim le'Elohechem Ani Adonai Elohechem asher hotzeiti etem me'eretz Mitzrayim lihyot lachem le'Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem
Adonai Elohechem emet.
In the Micha Mocha, we sing the joyous song of freedom that the Israelites sang as they crossed the Red Sea. We continue with Sur Yisrael, pleading for this action of redemption to be repeated. Please join me on page 122 for the Micha Mocha.
שירה חדשה שיבחו גאולים לשמחה על שפת הים יחד כולם הודו והמליכו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד Sur Yisrael, Kuma be'ezrat Yisrael, Ufdeichinu Mecha Yehuda ve'Yisrael, Go'aleinu Adonai Tzevaot Shemo Kedosh Yisrael, Baruch Atah Adonai Ga'al Yisrael.
We have entered the part of our service where we pray for our prayers to be accepted. The Amidah, which literally means standing, is the pinnacle of our service where we offer our private prayers. Please join me on page 124 and rise in body or in spirit. Eloheinu, Eloheinu, continue with the Kedusha on page 130. Let us sanctify your name on earth as it is sanctified in the heavens above, as it is written in your prophet. Holy, holy, holy is Adonai Tzevaot. God's presence fills the whole earth.
נקדיש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב על יד נביאך, וקרא זה אל זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוא כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר אדירנו אדוני, אדוננו מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מלכנו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון לדור ודור. Hallelujah.
Please be seated.
Jacob. I'd like to call Jacob up to sing a special song.
We are gifts and we are blessings. We are His story in song. We are hope and we are healing. We are learning to be strong. We are words and we are stories. We are pictures of the past. We are carriers of wisdom, not the first and not the last. Ledor vador nagid god lecha. Ledor vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation, Lador Vador, these lips will praise your name. Looking back on the journey that we carry in our heart, from the shadow of the mountain to the waters that would part, we are blessed and we are holy. We are children of your way, and the words that bring us meaning, we will have the strength to say. Lador vador nagid god lecha. Lador vador, we protect this chain. From generation to generation,
Bishamru is in the middle of the 7 blessings of the Shabbat Amidah. It asserts that we will keep Shabbat as a sign of our covenant. Our custom here is to raise our hands in the air and lift up off our seats as we sing the word Et. Please join me with the fun of Vishamru on page 132.
Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורות ברית עולם. Vishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורות ברית עולם. B'nei Uvein b'nei Yisrael oti le'olam, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat la'asot et ha-Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Please turn to page 137 for Ritzeh, our plea to Adonai to accept our prayers.
Ritzei Adonai Eloheinu be'amcha Yisrael, utfilatam be'ahava tekabel, uti leratzon tamid, avodat Yisrael amecha, baruch ata Adonai sheotcha levadcha b'yira na'avod.
Please turn to page 138 for our Hadoah prayer, where we express our gratitude for all the blessings in our lives.
Modim anachnu lach, shatahu Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu leolam va'ed. Sur chayinu mageni shenu atahu ledor vador. Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ulcha na'eh lehodot. Sorry, I didn't see that.
In the final blessing of the Amidah, we pray for peace, not only for the Jewish community, but for the world. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to share its message to all the people of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment fall within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of the world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name sanctify in every home and every heart. Baruch atah Adonai et amo Yisrael Shalom.
Shalom,
continue silently with the words either in the Siddur or in your own heart, and we will join together in a few moments in song.
We continue our service now with Seder Kriyat Torah, the service for taking out and reading from our Torah. And so as we pass the Torah down the generations of Ilana's family, I'd like to call up Shmuel and Geula Ben-Shmuel, Alan and Laurel Jarek, Jacob Ben-Shmuel, Jordan Ben-Shmuel, Ellie and Karen, and of course, Ilana. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit.
Ein kamocha va'Elohim Adonai ve'ein kema'asecha Malchutecha malchut kol olamim u'memshaltecha bechol dor v'dor Adonai melech Adonai malach Adonai Adonai oz le'amo yitain, Adonai yevarech et amo v'shalom. Av ha'rachamim, heitiva vertzonecha et Sion, tivnech omot Yerushalayim, tivnech omot Yerushalayim, kivecha levad batachnu, melech Eram benisa Adon olamim. Ki mitzion teitzei Torah, ki mitzion teitzei Torah, udevar Adonai mirushalayim. Baruch shenatan שנתן תורה, תורה, לעמו ישראל בקדושתו.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad.
Echad Eloheinu, Gadol Adonai.
Gadlu l'Adonai iti, unromem Shemo yachdav. Lecha Adonai hagedula, vehagevura, vehatiferet, vehanetzach, vehahod. Ki chol bashamayim uvaretz, ki chol bashamayim uvaretz. Lecha Adonai hamamlacha, vehaminasei lechol rosh. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim.
I'd like to invite Eddie Graham and Michael Ames up to help undress the Torah. Come on up.
Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, al shlosha devarim, ha'olam omed. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim. Al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al gemilut chasadim.
Please be seated. Well, as we honor the different sections of this Torah reading this morning, I'd like to call up members of Ilana's circle. And so for this very first Aliyah, I'd like to call up Shmuel and Geula Ben-Shmuel.
Nala Amod, Shmuel, Vegeula, Aliyah HaTorah.
Ilana, love you. בהצלחה. מה צריך לעשות? תן לי.
אנחנו נקרא ביחד. ברוך אדוני המבורך. ברכו את אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר בחר בנו מכל העמים ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם נותן התורה.
Amen.
Amen.
ודבר אדוני אל משה בהר סיני לאמור דבר אל בני ישראל ואמרת עליהם כי תבואו אל הארץ אשר אני נותן לכם ושבת הארץ Shabbat l'Adonai.
We continue with the English translation of that same reading.
The Eternal One spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai. Speak to the Israelite people and say to them, when you enter the land that I assign to you, the land shall observe a Sabbath of the Eternal.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. אמן.
Love you. You're so good.
Amen, amen.
Going back. Oh, okay.
I love you, Ilana. You're so cute.
For the second Aliyah, we call up Alan and Laurel Jarek, maternal grandparents to Ilana.
Nala Amod, Aryeh Levele Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai HaBarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Shesh shanim tizrasadecha v'shesh shanim tizmor karmecha v'hasavta et tevuata uvashana hashvihit Shabbat Shabbaton Yehiel la'aretz Shabbat l'Adonai Sadcha lo tizro v'charmecha lo tizmor.
6 years you may observe, or you may sow your field. In 6 years you may prune your vineyard and gather in the yield. But in the 7th year the land shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, a Sabbath of the Eternal. You shall not sow your fields or prune your vineyard.
ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'hayei olam v'tov v'tohenu baruch ata Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
They wanted me to sing a couple songs after
For our third aliyah, we call up Ilana's aunt and uncle David and Erica Jarek.
Nala Amo, David ve'Esther l'Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hambarach.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hambarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Beit Sephia Ketzirha Lo Tiksor Ve'etin Ve Nazirecha Lo Tivsor Shenat Shabbaton Yeh La'aretz Ve'haita Shabbat Haaretz Lachem Le'olah Lecha Ulv'evtecha Ve'la'amatecha Ve'lisirha Ultoshavecha Hagarim Imach Ve'lipemtecha Ve'lahaya Asher Be'artzecha Tihyeh Kol Tevuata Lechol. You shall not reap after the aftergrowth of your harvest or gather the grapes of your untrimmed vines. It shall be a year of complete rest for the land, but you may eat whatever the land during its Sabbath will produce. You, your male and female slaves, the hired and bound laborers who live with you, and your cattle and the beasts that in your land may eat its yield.
Baruch Hu atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah temet v'chayei olam natan b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. For our next aliyah, we call up Ilana's cousins, Adam Graham and Jeremy Graham.
Nala Amod Hamishpacha l'Aliyah HaTorah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamborach.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol hamim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Ve'safarta lecha Sheva Shabtot Shanim Sheva Shanim Sheva Pe'amim Ve'hayu lecha Yerei Sheva Shabtot Shanim Tesha Ve'arba'im Shana Uvavarta Shofar Teruah B'chodesh Hashvi'i Behasor LaChodesh Beyom HaKippurim Taviru Shofar Bechol Artsechem V'kidashtem Et Shenat HaHamishim Shana Ukratem Teror Haaretz Lechol Yoshvecha Yovel Hi Tihyeh Lachem V'shavtem Ish el achuzato, ve'ish el mishpachto tashuvu. You shall count off 7 years of weeks of years, 7 times 7 years, so that the period of 7 weeks of years gives you a total of 49 years. Then you shall sound the horn loud in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, the day of atonement. You shall have the horn sounded throughout your land, and you shall hallow the 15th year. You shall proclaim release throughout the land for all of its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you. Each of you shall return to your holdings, and each of you shall return to your family.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betohenu. Baruch atah Adonai, noten haTorah.
For our next Aliyah, we call up Ilana's brother and sister, Jacob Ben-Shmuel and Jordan Ben-Shmuel.
Nala Amod, Yaakov, Shmuel, Veyardin, Shoshana, Laliyah HaTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai hamavarach.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai hamavarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Yovel hi shenat ha-hamishim shana tihyeh lachem lo tizrahu velo tikseru et sefichecha velo tivseru et nazirecha ki yovel hi kodesh tihyeh lachem min hasateh tochlu et tevuatah. That 15th year you shall be a jubilee for you. You shall not sow, either shall you reap the aftergrowth or harvest the untrimmed vines, for it is a jubilee. It shall be holy to you. You may only eat the growth direct from the field.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
For our next Aliyah, we call up Ilana's very proud parents, Karen and Eli Ben-Shmuel.
Nala Amod, Eliezer, Veblumachaya, Laliyah HaTorah.
Baruch hu et Adonai Amvorach.
Baruch Adonai Habarach Le'olam Va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Amvorach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Bishnat hayovel hazot tashuvu ish el achuzato, v'chitim keru mimkar lahamitecha o kano miyad amitecha al tonu ish et achiv. In this year of Jubilee, each of you shall return to your holding. When you sell property to your neighbor or buy anything from your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
For our final aliyah, we call up Ilana herself. By nature of taking on this aliyah, she takes her place in our community as a bat mitzvah.
Nala amod, nala amod, nala amod, habat mitzvah. Ilana Chana bat Eliezer v'Bluma Chaya, laliyah haTorah.
Barehu Adonai Hamvorah.
Baruch
Adonai havarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch Adonai Hamvorah le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bahar banu mikol hamim, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
B'mispar shanim achar hayovel tikneh me'eit amitecha, b'mispar shenei tevuot yimkor lach lefi rob hashanim tarbe miknato ulfi nehot hashanim tamit miknato ki mispar tevuot hu mocher lach velo tonu ish et amito ve'yareita me Elohecha ki ani Adonai Elohechem. In buying from your neighbor, since you shall deduct only for the number of years since the Jubilee. And in selling to you, that person shall charge only for the remaining years of the crop years. The more such years, the higher the price you pay. The fewer such years, the lower the price. For what is being sold to you a number of harvests. Do not wrong one another, but fear your God, for I, the Eternal, am your God. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torah emet, v'chayei olam nata betochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. Yasher koach. Well done. Yeah, Yasher koach. Yeah. As we lift and dress our Torah, I'd like to invite up Marcy Hughes and Jenna Langen to dress our Torah, as well as Ellie Ben-Shmuel to lift our Torah. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit. I can take it.
V'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, asher sam Moshe, v'zot haTorah, asher sam Moshe, lifnei b'nei Yisrael, lifnei b'nei Yisrael. V'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, v'zot haTorah, al pi Adonai b'yad Moshe. Lai la 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 la, lai la 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 la, yai la 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 la, lai la 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 la, yai la la la, yai la la la, yai la la la,
Please be seated. Well, just as we have asked Ilana to read to us from the Torah, so too do we have a Haftorah reading this morning. And so I'd like to invite Ilana back up to lead us in her Haftorah reading for us this morning.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nviim tovim v'ratza v'divreihem hanehemarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai Habocher b'Torah u'Moshe abdo u'Yisrael hamo u'Vinvieh ha'emet b'tzedek. Gedol ha'etzah v'rav ha'aliliyah asher heinacha fekuchot al kol darchei b'nei adam lateit leish kidracham v'chifri ma'alalav asher samta hotot uvmoftim be'eretz Mitzrayim ad hayom hazeh u'Yisrael uva'adam v'hata selecha shem kayom hazeh v'totzeit et amechar et Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim ve'hotot uvmoftim uvyad chazaka uv'roa netuyot uv'ra gadol. You are the great and mighty God, whose name is the God of the heavens host, great in counsel and mighty in action, whose eyes are open to see all ways of mortals, giving to all according to their ways and according to the fruit of their deeds. To this day you have worked signs and wonders in the land of Egypt, in Israel, and all among the world's people. You have made your name renowned this very day. You brought Israel, your people, out of the land of Egypt with signs and wonders, with a strong hand, an outstretched arm, and with great terror. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam sur kol halamim tzadik bechol hadarot ha'el haneheman haomer ve'oseh ha'medaber u'mkayem shekol devarav emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al ha'avodah ve'al hanbiim ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha v'linucha lehavod u'tifaret al hakol Adonai Eloheinu anachnu modim lach u'mevarchim otach yitbarach shemcha befi kol hai tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
Well, as we continue our service by returning our Torah to the Ark, I'd like to invite up Zachary Ben-Shmuel, as well as Abby and Logan Jarek to help us open our Ark. The rest of the congregation I'd like to invite to please rise in body or in spirit.
Hashivenu Adonai Elecha v'nashuva Chadish Chadish Yameinu Chadish Yameinu Kekedem.
Please be seated. Well, just as we have asked our young people to take the words themselves from our Torah and read them, bring them to life for us, so too have we asked them to help us make meaning of these ancient words. And so this morning we get to hear Ilana's interpretation of what we might learn from these sacred words.
Greetings. Today I will be discussing my reading of my Torah portion, Bachar. In this portion, the Eternal One is speaking with Moses on Mount Sinai. Moses is commanded to follow the Sabbath every 7 years, and leave the land to rest completely. The Israelites and their slaves, as well as anyone human and not living with you, are still allowed to eat whatever the land produces during the land's year of rest. After 50 years, release shall occur throughout your land, and enslaved people can return to your family. The 50th year will be a jubilee, and you are not supposed to wrong your neighbor. In buying something from your neighbor, you shall not wrong one another. Fear your God in not wronging one another. We have to take care of people in society who are poor or lower standings than others. In the Torah portion, it talks about taking care of our slaves. It's interesting that even though people were enslaved, they still had an opportunity to share harvested food with the wealthy. To put in the idea of taking care of the poor in modern context, that can mean things like donating food to a food bank or giving tzedakah. As featured in the Torah portion, upper-class people who are also landowners and have others living amongst them were seen as obligated to share their food in the Sabbath year that the land produces. My Torah portion also talks about how every 50 years, or what is called the Jubilee year, property purchased in the previous 49 years should be returned to the original landowners, and liberty must be granted to all Israelites enslaved because of debt or poverty. Even today, Judaism gives us the opportunity to redeem ourselves. Each year at Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we ask for forgiveness from our sins and promise to do better within the next year. We get the chance to redeem ourselves no matter who we are or what we've done. As you can imagine, the whole returning property, forgiving debt, and freeing all the slave situation was very complicated. Even ancient rabbis had trouble explaining how all of this was going to work. The important thing was to communicate and come up with solutions that work for the community as a whole, while respecting the fact that they are a commandment to restart things every 50 years. I hope that moving forward, we are able to recognize the value of society and remember everyone deserves a second chance. I would like to thank my mother and father for always being there to support me no matter what I'm going through or what decisions need to be made. They were the ones that brought me to this point, and I will love them and be grateful for everything they've done for me. Following that, I would like to thank all my siblings, Jacob, Jordan, and Zach. Zach, although we often annoy each other, I will always love you and keep the memories of us close, of us growing up together. Jacob and Jordan, I know I don't see you guys as much as I'd like, but I thank you for making my childhood so amazing and all the family trips even better. Next, I would like to thank all of my grandparents. Grandmother, I've always been close to you, and I always love thinking back on all the memories we've had together my entire life. Through all the trial and error, we've always been there for each other, and I love you so much.
Grandfather, thank you for always being there for me no matter what and loving me to bits. I adore you, and I love looking back at all the memories from my childhood, from going to sports games to watching Peppa Pig together while sharing a pillow. I will always appreciate all the time I get to spend with you, and I love you so much. Saba and Safta, I'd like to thank you both for being there when I need a hug, often with an interesting travel story or a delicious home-cooked meal. A special thank you to all my cousins, but especially Abby, the person who also doubles as my best friend and the person I can always count on to make me smile. You're the most amazing person, and I love you so much. Thank you to my aunts and uncles for bringing my cousins into this world as a source of entertainment. I love you guys, and I will always cherish the memories you've allowed us to create. Next, I would like to thank all my friends from school who so generously gave up their time to watch me take my steps into womanism in the Jewish community. Ilana in particular. I'm so grateful I met you, and I've been able to spend almost 2 years with you. We've watched each other grow, and through all the disagreements, you'll always be my best friend, and I love you so much. I would also like to thank Clay for becoming my friend this year and being there for the best emotional support you could ask for. We haven't been friends long, but our journey together has lasted a while, and I'm excited to see where it will go. I'd also like to thank all my Torah Center friends. We've had a lot of fun this year, including our group in-and-out costume at Purim. Next, I would like to thank Cantor Cooper for being such a big part of my bat mitzvah. I've known you my entire life, and you're one of the kindest people I know. Thank you for always being so amazing. I would also like to thank Rabbi Fox for having good conversations with me, being very comforting wherever we met up. I was never too nervous this year, but when I was, you were always there, and I really appreciate you for that. I would also like to thank David York for your lovely music, as well as my Torah Center teachers who have brought me this far. Now that I've become a bat mitzvah, I'm excited to continue growing as a Jewish adult, including taking the 8th grade trip to New York and working as a madrachim in the Torah Center. Thank you, society, for gathering today and watch me taking my next steps into Judaism. Parental figures. Summon.
They'll get a chance in just a minute. But now I get to say something.
Oh, great.
Ilana, we were talking earlier, and I was saying that I've been thinking a lot about what a synagogue and a community is for, right? I have some friends that are actually fairly prominent in the world of media and so on and so forth. One is always on CNN. In fact, I see him more on TV than I see him in person, right? And they're good friends, but those aren't always the ones that I actually reach out to and call. There are some people that are just there for you. Whenever you have a difficult moment or even a wonderful moment to share, they're the ones that are with you. They lift you up. They comfort you. They celebrate you. That's what a synagogue is. It's a place to walk in the door and know that you are surrounded by love. I told you earlier that if nothing else, today you should get lots and lots of hugs. You should walk into this room and know that it is filled with love. And so as you teach us from your Torah portion about what it means to have a society where people treat each other with kindness, with goodness, you have an important detail in your Torah portion. But ultimately, what it's telling us is create a society, a community that has love in it. So Ilana, as you continue, and I am so excited to see you continue as in the Madrichim program and throughout our program here. In fact, I got a little teary about thinking about the 12th grade moment of having to, but we'll get there. We'll get there. Continue to walk into this space and know that you are loved. And that is it. Mazel tov. Congratulations, Ilana. Yeah. Well, now I have the opportunity to call up your parents, Ellie and Karen Ben-Shmuel, to offer their words of blessing this morning.
Ilana, Annie. Your dad and I chose the name Ilana for you because we wanted something that was beautiful in both Hebrew and English. In Hebrew, it means tree, which reminded us of strength and roots. And we also love the musical sound that it makes in English, Ilana. My grandma Louise, your great-grandma, picked the middle name Annie for us after her mom or your great-great-grandmother. Ever since you were a little girl, you were incredibly bright and kind and sweet and creative and artistic. From early on and continuing strong for several following years, you were obsessed with Princess Ariel. Everything was Ariel. You even wanted to name Zachary Ariel before we found out he was a boy.
Even after.
Yeah, even after. While you remain an Ariel fan, your interests have expanded and evolved. You love Disney, dogs, hanging out with your siblings and your cousins and your friends, sushi and ice cream, and singing. You have a beautiful voice, as we heard today, and we love seeing your excitement about being in the middle school choir. So that's been really fun to watch. Your journey towards becoming a bat mitzvah definitely has had its ups and downs. At the beginning, it seemed overwhelming, and you were afraid that you weren't up to the job. Very quickly, though, you gained confidence in yourself, and your hard work and natural talent culminated in the exquisite job that you did today. Now that you're officially a bat mitzvah, you're considered an adult in Judaism. Crazy, I know. Even though it was hard work, I know that your place as a link in our family and our people's chain is important to you, and it'll grow in significance. You've already talked just now about some of the things you're looking forward to doing, like the 8th grade trip to New York. Thank you, Sharon, wherever you are. There you go. And being a Madrahim and working with the little ones in Torah Center. I know you're excited about that. Lonnie Bell, you are so beloved by your family and your friends. You have such a nice, supportive group of friends at school, many of whom are here today. And you also have a really cool bond with your wonderful Torah Center classmates. You guys are awesome. And all of us parents are so thrilled that your group is so close with all your text chains and things like that we old people don't understand. I hope that as you grow older, you continue to nurture these and other friendships. My hope for you is that you always work toward your dreams with confidence, determination, and a sense of humor. I hope you see yourself as others see you, kind, intelligent, fun, silly, and a great friend. Daddy and I love you so much, and we couldn't be prouder. You deserve only good things, and we're here to cheer you on and support you every step of the way.
I too have some thoughts. What? You mean the dad speech is not what you came for? So, let me just start off with actually.
The prank backfired.
Exactly. Some thank yous. First of all, Rabbi Fox, thank you so much for everything that you've done. Cantor Cooper, just Kelly. You've been in our lives so long, it's hard to remember any time that you weren't, but thank you for bringing us to this point. It was wonderful. Thank you, David York, for your wonderful music. You are incredible and just wonderful. Thanks to all of the teachers that brought you up, and I'm talking everybody from ECE on to today, because yes, the 7th grade teachers really got you over the finish line, but really it's the ECE that started everything, and that's what you learned. Thanks to our families for coming from so far away to come and celebrate with us. It matters a lot that you're here. Thank you for coming. Thank you for, obviously, Jacob and Jordan for flying in and being a part of this. I know just how special it is to have you here, and how much it means to all of us that you could be a part of this celebration. Thank you also to the Newmans for helping us with today. I mean, just thanks. I mean, you're always there for support, and it's wonderful that you were here. Thank you most especially to our parents, though, Abba, Ima, and to Alan and Laurel for everything that you have done for us to bring us to this point. The help, the advice, the financial help, the babysitting, everything that you have done. It's been wonderful. Thank you for doing everything that you've done for us. And of course, today would not have been possible without you, Ilana. The amount of hard work that you put into today is just amazing. You sounded wonderfully. I could tell, and I watched as you read the Torah, not just memorized, said it from rote memory. It was absolutely beautiful. And the thing that is most amazing about it is, to me at least, is actually your Dvar Torah. Because while being able to chant from the Torah and being able to chant from the Haftorah matters, the fact is that that's what you brought from other generations and that's what you brought forward. You know, a lot of people in a lot of places had to go through a lot of things in order to bring you here. You know, you have ancestors from England, ancestors from Germany, ancestors from Russia, from Poland. Obviously, you know you have ancestors from Yemen and ancestors from Bulgaria and from Spain. These are all the different streams that came together to make you. And it's not just what you brought out today. The Dvar Torah that you gave, that to give an explanation of the Torah portion matters. And it's a tradition that has gone back a long time. After all, we'll be saying the Kaddish pretty soon. That is a prayer that is actually in Aramaic, not in Hebrew. Well, why? Well, it turns out that when that prayer was written, Aramaic was the day-to-day language of most Jews in the Near East. And so to make sure that people understood it, they made it in Aramaic. And so you today partook of that same tradition, explaining in English to people who may never have even heard a Torah portion, something that made it meaningful for them today. I am absolutely in awe in everything that you did today. Wonderful job. I love you very, very much.
And now this isn't quite traditional, but we do have a member of the board of directors present gifts, and today that's going to be me. So that's what Ilana asked, so I'm more than happy to oblige. So I won't give my normal chat beforehand, but I do want to present some gifts on behalf of the temple, and if you excuse me, I will go grab them. Okay. From the Sisterhood and Men's Group, we have some candlesticks and a Kiddush cup, so we can continue to celebrate Shabbat in our home. From these two. From the temple itself, we have the Tanakh translation, the Jewish Bible, which we will keep on our shelf and refer to and continue it using for Shabbat. And also from the URJ, Union for Reform Judaism, we have a $250 gift certificate really, for Travel Israel, for summer or semester in Israel. And I'm hoping we'll get to do that one of those days and go over there and enjoy where your family hails from. So those are gifts from the temple. Mazel tov from your official board representative. For me. All right, that's okay.
Well, Ilana, we want to continue to offer blessings to you. You can hold on to those. If you need, we can,
Sorry there.
We'll take it.
We should be able to find them later. We want to continue to offer blessings to you. And so we have a special blessing for you this morning that the cantor and I are going to offer, but the words themselves come through that same tradition of many, many generations before. And so the hope is for you this morning that you feel the blessing not just of everyone here, but of all of the generations and members of our community who have been here before. Come on up to the bima.
Yevarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'chuneka.
May God's face be turned towards you in graciousness.
Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yaseim lecha shalom.
May God always watch over you, and may you be blessed with peace. I invite us together to say, Amen. And anytime we are gathered for such a wonderful and beautiful occasion, we offer the words of Shechianu. I invite us to sing together.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kimanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Amen.
We continue now with the words of Aleinu on page 282 of our prayer books. I'd like to invite us to rise in body or in spirit.
Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula leotzer breshit, shelo asanu kegoyei ha'aratzot, velo samanu kemishpechot ha'adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Please be seated. Our thoughts now turn to those in our community who have died in recent days or in this season in years past. And there are members of a circle, a family, a community who celebrate and are present at a day such as this, even though they have passed away. And so together, we think of those near to Ilana, whose memories are very much a part of this day. Eliezer and Esther Ben-Shmuel, Shalom and Mazel Chukaima, Louise and Irving White, and Bluma Jarek. We additionally think of those who have died in the past 7 and 30 days, and our hearts go out to those near to them who are observing Shiva and Shloshim. And so as we remember Celie Angel Hellman, our hearts go out to Lynn and Joel Epstein. And as we remember Betty Gandel, our hearts go out to Joanne and Jerry Levy. We additionally mark the yard site, the anniversary of the death of Belle Axel, Helen Barth, Arthur Bornstein, Jacob Broad, Beverly Brower, Stanley Brill, Harry Brodsky, Albert Butler, Harry Cohn, Estelle Edelman, Anita Ehrenberg, Helene Fisher, Melvin Gigas, Anthony Grigoli, Clark Hamilton, Amy Hirsch, David Krugman, Jane Lancet, Al Marcus, Jack Panitz, Lillian Rosenberg, Max Rosenzweig, Louis Rubin, Milton Safier, Harold Sloan, Jacqueline Slutsky, Sarah Tall, Samuel Weil, and Amatzia Yaron. If you are joining us online, I'd like to invite you to share the names of those that you are thinking of in the chat at this time. And if you are here in our sanctuary and are thinking of someone, especially this Shabbat, I invite you to share their name aloud as my eyes meet yours. I'd like to invite all of us to turn together to the words of Mourner's Kaddish on page 294, page 294 of our prayer books. I invite us to rise together as one community. Yitgadal, Yitgadash Shmei Rabbah, Be'alma Divarachu Te Ve'amlich Malchute, B'chayachon V'yomechon Uv'chayi Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala Uvizman Kariv V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabbah Mevorach Leolam Omeil Maya, Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitramam V'yitnaseh, Yitadar V'yitalev V'yitalal Shemei Dekudesha Barichu, Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata, Tushbechata V'nechamata, Damiran Be'alma V'imru, Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabbah Min Shemaya, V'chaim Alinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru, Amen. Osei Shalom B'mramav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Alinu V'al Kol Yisrael, V'al Kol Yoshvei Tevel, V'imru, Amen. Zichronam Livracha, may the memories of those near to us always be a source of blessing. I invite us together to say, Amen. We continue with our closing song placed right there at the bottom of that same blessing. Let's sing together. Let's say shalom.
Family. Oh, say shalom bimroma. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Say shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Oh, say shalom bimromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ve'imru, amen. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom, Shabbat, 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 Shabbat shalom.
We continue with our blessing for our Kiddush, placing the sweetness of this day right there in our cup. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
That was not a good idea.
It's fully drinking from your cup. We have, as a part of our blessing for our challah, the words hamotzi lechem min haaretz, bread that rises from the earth, but we know full well that it does not rise directly from the earth, that wheat rises from the earth, and there is a whole chain of work that goes into bringing this challah, this beautiful challah, to our celebration. So too do we celebrate the network, the community, the village that lifts up such a moment as this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'tei avon. Mazel tov and Shabbat shalom, everyone.
I'm upset by this. We didn't do like the child. We did last night. We did it last night.
Well, no, so Ilana, in the morning, Ilana, the morning actually, it's just a short one. It's only for that night. You are absolutely right. I promise you that, and I apologize. So, Ilana, that means I owe you one. All right.
Can I speak into it?
What are you going to say?
Zach, do you want some?
Ilana should have shown.
You just had some. Okay. Yeah, you totally rocked that. Oh, it's okay. Zach, all the time.
Zach,
It's okay. Can't turn ID down.
She should have chugged the wine. She should have chugged the wine.